What would you counsel a child who, let's say, has been bullied in the last school year and is now very nervous about entering that whole scene again?
Well, for sure, and it's the first thing to do is to really be present with that child and to take the time to invest with that child some time to sit down and listen to what their concerns are, to listen to what their stress is, their anxieties are, and to really work with them around coming up with some ideas on how they can best and I'll say to not really have them do it on their own, but to sort of create a collaborative relationship, a teamwork, if you will, to come up with a plan for the upcoming year about how they'd like to approach certain things, how they would like to deal with a bullying situation if it were to come up, to deal with any anxieties that may be coming from, if I'm starting a brand new school, what if, I have to go through this bullying thing all over again, but it's in a different school where I know absolutely nobody. So it's mostly really important to just sit down, spend some time with them, listening to them, creating that relationship, letting them be heard, letting them experience and express what they need to express.
Because on that specific topic, bullying, just for a second, it is often very hard for parents to achieve exactly what you're suggesting, right? Because kids don't always want to talk to their parents about it.
Correct, yes. Yeah, and that's one of the common things. It's not just around kids who are being bullied or stressed. That's just a common teenager thing, that they tend to not want to talk to their parents, though they would rather talk to their friends first in their peer relationships. The one thing that KidsHelpPhone offers is the anonymity, is that they can call or write into us and they can be anonymous. They can talk about whatever they want to talk about, and unless they provide us with any information that's identifying, we're not going to know who they are. So they have that freedom of expression. They can talk to us about anything and everything under the sun, and we're here to listen.
The other topic that has been in the media a lot lately when it comes to not just children, but increasingly children, is depression. Now, are you seeing more and more of that in the calls that you field? And is there usually an increase in those types of calls at this time of year from kids?
There is certainly an increased volume of kids who are expressing a deep level of sadness and depression, a level of hopelessness going back to school if they've just come off of a really bad school year and they're thinking about going back and starting another year. It certainly is very overwhelming for them, and it can really, whatever coping strategies they had last year, it may overwhelm them to the point that it just completely debilitates them again. So we spend time working with them, normalizing what they're feeling. It's really encouraging them to talk about it, to open up, to be patient with themselves, to be patient with their parents, to be open, to encourage the lines of communication, to be gentle with themselves, essentially, that we have to take it one day at a time, and we have to create relationships and rapport with different people. We encourage communication to the school, and sometimes we have the ability to communicate with the child's parent. If the child wants us to talk to the parents, we can then bridge those relationships a little bit by making sure everybody's on the same page.
What are some tips that you can share with parents who might be watching this about how they can facilitate these types of issues and help their children if they need to?
Well, first and foremost is to acknowledge their children, to acknowledge the fact that there is a problem, that there is some major issues going on with their child, and to set aside some good quality time to sit down and listen and to just be present with that child, as opposed to sitting down and dictating to them or giving them direction. It's about just allowing that child to find their voice. And the more they can find their voice and make that connection, that's, in the long run, it's going to empower them to use their voice when they go into the school, or when they get into situations where they're feeling scared or anxious. They're going to feel that it's okay to use their voice. So it really does start at home, and it's sometimes can take a while, but if you're patient and the child is patient, that relationship and that empowerment can be built up very nicely.
What would you say is the main critique that kids calling you will offer about their parents? What's the number one thing that kids complain about their parents?
The number one thing that we typically hear from kids about their parents is they don't understand. Their parents, usually growing up, they never had to encounter the kind of bullying or to the extent that it happens today. There's so many different levels and layers of bullying that happens at school. Bullying can happen when you're not at school. When their parents were going to school, bullying was pretty much a non-issue. It may have happened here and there, but it was not a major issue like it is today. So that's the first thing that we hear is, my parents don't understand. Second issue that we hear about is, my parents don't hear me. They're not listening. So those are we work with the child in coming up with some ideas on how to best approach their parents, whether it be their mom or dad or both, and how they would like to approach it.